Mic check. Video check. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, can I say good evening, everybody? I want to welcome everybody for today's program. For all those participants who are ready in the house, welcome, and indeed big welcome to you. I'm sincerely excited to welcome you to today's program on a series of health talks. And I'll tell you that today's talk will be very, very important to each and every one that will be on this talk. Each and every one that will participate. They say knowledge is power. It's not only the knowledge we have acquired from school alone that is required, but sincerely, the knowledge that we acquire after schooling is equally important, because that is where we start to develop ourselves. That is where we start to apply. So today is another day for sharing information that concerns our health. Why do we need to be sharing information about our health? It's simply because we're in a very strange environment now. The environment is not as friendly as the environment as it used to be. The environment has become like a crazy environment that most times our health is at jeopardy. And so we thought it wise to share information of value every week to the general public free of charge, so that as much as we know that we can apply, we surely go a long way to keeping us well, maintain our wellness, and at the same time, take us away from some of these deadly infectious diseases. And so we're excited today that we have a very, very, very capable hand, an expert in the area we are going to talk about today, that will do justice to this talk. He's already in the house. I want to welcome him profusely. Doctor, welcome. We welcome you, doctor. Can you hear me?
Thank you. Thank you, sir. I can hear you.
Welcome, doctor. God bless you for coming.
Thank you, sir.
We thank you because we know you have very tight schedule of work, but that you found the time to be with us to share information to the public like we do every weekend, every Saturday. We appreciate your coming, and we want to as well thank our able doctor, Dr. Clement Idigo, who has been in contact with you to assist us in doing justice to this talk today. And so I welcome everybody, all participants on the Zoom, and as well as those who are on the Facebook Live program, because I can see the Facebook Live program, people are streaming in already. And so in less than few seconds, we will kick off this training and this information talk this evening. So once more, I want to welcome everybody and say, we're going to enjoy ourselves listening to our doctor. I'm going to introduce him just now. And of course, we'll feel very, very much at home with him because he's an expert in that area. I'm talking about a very capable hand. I'm talking about Dr. Jude Madu Anazweze.
Thank you.
He's the head of the department, dermatology and UNN. And so we'll leave you in his hands to handle the rest. But while we're taking on this talk today on immunology, I'm sure we're aware that our immune system is a complex system that God has provided for us to help us protect ourselves against invasion. And so this is a doctor in this field that will help to inform what should we be doing to boost our immune system? What should we be doing to enhance our immune system so that we are protected against this invasion? And you believe me that if you have a soldier man guiding you, carrying gun, following you up and down, and there's no bullet in the gun, then you have no protection. Doctor, am I right? You
Yes,
have
sir.
no protection at all, except you are well armed. And so, permit me to invite Doctor now to commence the training. And at the end of the training, we will have time to take some questions from the public. I will also have time to interact with the doctor one-on-one. And we'll also explain some other things, find out some other information that we'll also need if it's going to be of help to us. So, Doctor, you are very, very much welcome. Good evening and welcome. Thank you very much.
Good evening.
Welcome.
And thank you, sir.
Yes.
I'll begin to share my slide by way of introduction. My name is Dr. Madu Anazweze Madu. I'm a hematologist. I work with the University of Nigeria, College of Medicine in the Department of Hematology and Immunology. If you permit me, I'll begin to share my screen so that we can go ahead with the talk we have for today.
Yes, go ahead, Jude.
Okay.
Dr. Madu, are you available?
Yeah, I can hear you. Just give me a minute. Just a few minutes, please. Let me.
Right. while Doctor is preparing to share his slides, I can see that guests are still streaming in, participants are streaming in, the number is increasing, and our Facebook Live session is also on a boost. And I'm moderating and also co-presenting with Dr. Madu, because at the end of his presentation from the medical point of view, I also want to share some few slides, particularly from the angle of nutrition. What are those things the body needs as well in terms of foods that we need to take and keep taking, all to fortify and boost our immune system. So from all angles, we want to be well and want to be alive, we want to be healthy, want to be okay. Doctor, are you set?
I'm trying to, I had to shrink my Zoom. I'm trying to get it back to big size so I can see my screen sharing.
Okay. All right. So be patient with us. Doctor is trying to share his screen. And in some few seconds, you can be sure that we'll be here. And I'm sure this will also give time to some people who have been battling to join the program. Oh yeah, I can see some people are really streaming in now. The number is shooting up very quickly. We thank God for you. And the doctor is, in few seconds, will be ready to present. The moment his screen is shared. If I were you, you have your writing material, because it's a training. You need to take down some key points, some notes that can help each and every one boost your immune system so that your body can fight for itself. Help the body to help you. That is the essence of today's talk. So be well armed and prepared with your writing materials so we can take notes. I have my pen here, I have my paper here to take down my notes. So this is a training. Every weekend, like I said, we'll be taking on health talks. Last week, there were a lot of value added to the talk on prostate enlargement and prostate cancer. In fact, as we talk, people are still sending messages, and then people are also looking at that direction now, because we want to bring down the level of people dying of these ailments that are preventable, ailments that can be curtailed by mere information, knowledge. Knowledge is power, indeed. And when we talk about having knowledge, if you don't put it to use, it's powerless, of course. And so,
thank you. Can you see my screen now, sir?
Yeah, I think.
Can everybody see my screen? It's coming up. Okay.
Yeah, it's coming up now.
Okay.
It's coming up. It's coming up. All right. So I can see the immune system. How can we boost our immunity? Okay. Fantastic.
Okay, so sorry for the hitches there. We'll take off now. Okay, so we'll be discussing the immune system generally so that we will have an overview of what the immune system is all about, so that we can appreciate the terms that we use and the things that we say with regards to this topic and how these things interplay, so that it won't be just terminologies and terminology. So we'll try to take it using this outline. We'll discuss the human immune system and a general overview so that we can all understand how the immune system is structured in human beings. Then also the key immune cells and pathways or chemicals that help to run the immune system. Okay. Then we'll briefly touch on immunization. Then we now key down to the immune system, factors that affect the immune system: age, stress, diet, cold, exercise. See how each of these things interplay with our immune system as a way of learning ourselves better. You know, in this era of COVID-19, where everybody is now trying to be health conscious and aware of what is going on in terms of how we can help ourselves, and also foods that can help boost the immune system. So these are going to be a general outline of how we're going to go with it. So the human immune system, don't mind the big classifications there. Everybody's immune system in all of us is classified into the innate, that's the things we are born with, okay, and the acquired, okay, the cells and the other things that come into play. Okay, so I think some people are raising their hands. I hope they are hearing me. Okay, thank you. The innate immune system are the things that are natural in all of us. Our skin covering the outer layer of our body, covering our muscles, okay? The saliva that we secrete, the urine, the fact that we also swallow and it moves in one direction, the fact that urine moves from the kidneys down to the bladder and remove them, okay? There's also from soldiers, cells in our body that help to fight infection. Non-specifically, that means they don't need to be primed or they don't need to have a previous encounter with any bacteria or virus before they kill it, okay? So these are all cells, things that God has been placed in us so that we can handle infections. Let us know that these things we mentioned, the skin, saliva, the secretions that's in our stomach or in our bodies, even the sweat, the tears in our eyes are all part of our innate immune system. So these things tend to protect us, no matter how trivial we think they are. You understand? They are so important that if, for instance, I have a problem and my eyes can no longer secrete tears, I will begin to have eye infections almost immediately, because the eyes also contain some chemicals that help to prevent bacteria and other things from getting into my eyes. And even when they get in, they are not able to do so much. They neutralize them. So these natural barriers are what we regard to as the innate immune system, okay? While the acquired immune system, the other half, they have that you have the antibodies, the cells, the lymphocytes, and all those things that they need to be primed. Okay, so they need to encounter a virus, a bacteria, or a cancer, as a matter of fact, as we are going to see later. Okay, there are different types of things that attack us. Some are bacteria, some are viruses, some are fungi, some are even particles, dust, smoke, cancer cells, all those things. Okay, our immune system also helps us to take care of them. So these are the different compartments of the immune system: the complement system, the T lymphocytes, the B lymphocytes, the phagocytes, and the mucous membrane. Don't mind the terminologies. We're going to break it down better. So the immune system, what is the immune system? Okay, so the immune system is the body's defense against diseases, organisms. Note the categories: diseases, which include organisms, malfunctioning cells. So in all of us, once in a while, there are billions of cells in the human body. So once in a while, they malfunction. When they malfunction, it is also the job of our immune system to remove them before they begin to cause disease, okay? As well as foreign substances, okay? So these are aspects of the immune system that we are going to see and that has been put in place to protect us against diseases, okay? So as I mentioned earlier, the first line of defense most of the time is the skin. That is why in people, once the skin is removed, either by burns or by any disease that peels off the skin, infections immediately sink in. That is why, depending on the quantity of, sorry, can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, Dr. Goa, we can hear you. Even though some people are complaining of audio, that you should please, maybe you should speak up a bit.
Okay, I can speak louder. Eh? Okay, no problem. Okay, thank you. So the components of the immune system, we mentioned the skin. The skin is so important because they are the first layer. you can imagine if our skin is, or for any reason, for any disease, the skin peels off, any bacteria immediately lands on the subcutaneous, that's the tissue under the skin, and can easily infect it. The skin is tough, it is impervious, that means water and other chemicals cannot easily penetrate the skin. As a matter of fact, the skin can only be penetrated by oil-based chemicals. Okay, so any other chemical will find it difficult to enter the skin. Okay, so that is why if somebody has a bonds that affects a very large area of body, the chances of survival because of infection becomes very, very low. Okay, so other symptoms of other methods of defense that we have, including as we breathe, we also breathe in particles, dust, bacteria, and all those things. Okay, so we have mucus in our throat and in our trachea or our windpipes that help to trap these particles. And when they trap it sufficiently, or when they get to a critical amount, we sneeze. Sneezing is a reflex where we try to throw out those particles, okay, and those bacteria that may be harmful to us, okay, or noxious agents, including smoke and other things, okay, as well as we know, things like COVID-19, we also get it from breathing in the particles that are infected. Okay, so the first line of care is once in a while we sneeze when we are exposed to things like that. Okay, so it is also, as well as coughing. Coughing is also another reflex, trying to clear up the windpipe. Okay, and trying to make sure that we keep these things out of the body so that they don't invade and start causing problems. So these are all first lines of defense. Very, very important, because once we lose that first line of defense, a lot of things become problematic. And by the time we go down further the lecture, we're going to see the fact that many of the diseases that we say somebody is immunosuppressed or somebody is liable to infections like COVID, you see, these are diseases that have affected these lines of defense that the body has, as we're going to see moving forward. Okay, most of the time we can also swallow the mucus from our noses and from the nose pipe, because when they get into the stomach, the acid in the stomach is so corrosive that it kills most bacteria. Okay, so these are all lines of defense. So what's the first thing you do when you cut your fingers? You put your hand in your mouth. It's a reflex that we all had from childhood, because the saliva also contains chemicals that break down bacteria and also protect us. Okay, there are several different types of bacteria that can also escape the saliva, but the saliva also has protective effect based on the food that we eat that must pass through our mouth, and the saliva therefore can protect us against such problems. Then another, in case the bacteria or whatever the invading organism is, if it evades the saliva in our mouth, then it gets into our stomach. The pH of the acid in the stomach is a hydrochloric acid, actually, that's HCl, is about 3. That is a very, very high concentration of acid. So the question is, how come with that high acidity inside of us, it doesn't end up burning our stomachs? What actually happens is that with the high acidity, the stomach has a protective lining of slime or mucus. Okay, a very thick layer of mucus that protects the stomach linings from the corrosion due to the acid it contains. And the acid also helps us to digest our food. Okay, so we can think of a human body as a hollow plastic pipe. Okay, the food is digested within the hole of the pipe, but it never actually enters into the plastic material. The inner surface of the tube is the digestive system. The tube's outer surface is our skin. That's if you take the human being as a whole, while the plastic interior is the body. Okay, so we can look at it in that arrangement. The bacteria called Escherichia coli, don't mind the name, it's just one bacteria. For example, it can live plentifully inside the intestines, okay? But it does not make us sick, okay? Why? Because these bacteria, in medical terms, they call it normal flora. This bacteria helps us to digest some food particles that we cannot digest. And they have a correlation, or they have a symbiotic relationship with us, and they try to help us keep the intestine in such a way that other bacteria don't invade. Okay, so it's a symbiosis. We all exist together with this bacteria. It lives inside us. There are also bacteria that lives on our skin. Bacteria like Staphylococcus. It lives on our skin, but it does not cause infections unless it gets beyond the skin and under the skin. That is where it can cause pus formation. So if somebody tells you that he's doing a culture of your skin culture, he's going to see Staphylococcus on top of everybody's skin. It is not a problem, okay? Unless there's another thing the person is looking for. So these are called normal flora, okay? Of different parts of our body, our skin, our urinary tract, our intestines all have different normal flora. That is normal bacteria, normal habitats. They are the normal indigens. We share the house with them, but they don't cause problems for us. So we leave them as they are. Now, the problem with taking antibiotics without prescription is that you can also, by taking antibiotics, wipe out your normal flora, in which case those antibiotics kill the bacteria of our normal flora and can also cause problems for us. Okay, so in case this first line of defense that we've mentioned, as you can see, is a whole lot. In case after all this, the bacteria or any invading organism or virus manages to evade all these systems and still get into our body, the second line of defense begins to come into play. Okay, so this second line of defense now consists of the white blood cells. Okay, the white blood cells, okay, so they circulate in the blood throughout our body. They move around with the blood. So the more the blood moves out, the more the white blood cells move around all our body. And their aim is, they are like soldiers, they on patrol. So they move around the town or policemen, making sure that the criminals that have broken through don't manage to get into the city. Okay, so these white blood cells consist of, some of them, they are different groups. Some of them are called phagocytes. Okay, these phagocytes, they don't need to take you to the police station. Once they catch you, they will easily eat up any particle, any bacteria, any virus. They don't need to collect statements. Okay, they don't need to take you to the police station. You don't get to court with them. With them, wherever they catch the organisms, they engulf them and they kill them once. Okay, how they engulf them, they encircle them and they kill them using what are called lysozymes, like chemicals. Okay, the chemicals inside the phagocytes kill off the bacteria or the virus or whatever. Remember, even cancer cells. That is why if people are immunosuppressed, cancer also begins to thrive in things like HIV and other conditions. Okay, then these white blood cells some of the bacteria or some of those viruses can also evade the phagocytes. Just like criminals in a city, they can also hide, and the phagocytes may not be able to catch them. Okay, so what is the thing about viruses, including HIV, COVID-19, and things like them? Some people have said that viruses are not living things, but if you take our statistics of living things, viruses multiply. They can also feed. They can also grow. Okay, so the only thing is that viruses on their own cannot multiply. So what they do is, when they get into our body, they hijack a cell. They need to hijack a cell because they are not cells in themselves. Okay, so they hijack a cell and they use the components, parts of the cell, to begin to manufacture themselves. So that is why what viruses do, they fill up a cell, manufacture themselves in thousands and millions, then they kill the cell and the cell bursts and the viruses invade. From that cell, they move into nearby cells, or they invade the nearby cells and begin to grow. They kill the nearby cell, they move to another cell, they kill the nearby cell after multiplying into thousands. And that is how viruses move. Now, this is a picture of a cell that is before infection by a virus on your left. After the virus have invaded, you can now see the picture by your right. Millions of viral cells, viral particles inside a particular cell. Okay, they have taken over and they have grown to thousands and millions. Okay, so this is what a virus looks like. A picture by your right. It looks like an asteroid or something from outer space, but not to worry. Okay, so viruses, when they infect a cell Another way the body tries to protect itself from viruses is that when a cell gets infected, the cell produces things that are called interferons, okay? So these interferons, their job is to make sure that you have infected me, yes, but you will not infect my wife, you will not infect my children. So interferons are chemicals that are produced by virus-infected cells. And their job is to make sure that the virus, they will not be able to infect other cells around them, okay? So they are chemicals, they are produced by, when a virus infects a cell, the cell begins to produce interferons, not to protect itself, but to protect its neighbors. I think this is a very good strategy, okay? And medically, they have also made drugs using interferons to treat things like hepatitis and other things like that, okay? Now, when we get to the cells that are called the lymphocytes, these are some of the cells that really do the war. War in terms of, these are the real snipers. They don't come to the war front. They wait and they sit back. Their job is to make sure that even if you break through this first line of defense and the second line, as it were, they will make sure they wipe out the virus, okay, or any infective organism, be it a bacteria or fungi or cancer cell, okay? Now, there are different types of lymphocytes. You have T and B, okay? Don't worry yourself so much about that. Just know that they are lymphocytes, or they are T cells as they are called. Now, these T cells can quickly kill any infected cell. Again, they don't need to negotiate with anybody, or they don't need to already be activated. They also kill cancer cells. This is very important. They also kill cancer cells, again, without negotiation, okay? We will now see where the negotiation begins by the next few slides. Okay, another way of protecting against infections is what we call inflammation. Okay, inflammation is the fact that when you have an injury, or when we have an infection, the body begins to produce chemicals to try to limit that infection. Okay, some of these chemicals are histamines. Okay, histamines are chemicals. They can also cause itching or inflammation or redness. Okay, they make the place red, and the histamine is also what makes a wound or the surrounding area to be painful. Okay, so they cause pain and they cause the other things, and capillaries to dilate. Okay, they also cause fever. Okay, so some of these chemicals that are released during inflammation cause fever. Now, fever is trying to increase the body temperature to make it uncomfortable for the invading organism. Okay, because many organisms, bacteria, viruses cannot operate in areas of high temperature. So our body, when you have malaria, when you have an infection, pneumonia, COVID-19, the fever is meant to make sure that these organisms don't thrive. Okay, though we see it as a way of being sick, but these are ways of trying to make sure that these organisms don't thrive. Okay, we can also have pain as a side effect of these chemicals, as well as dilation of the capillaries. That's the blood vessels in our body. The idea is for blood to flow better to that area that is affected. Okay, so that is what happens, so that as the area becomes flooded with blood, white blood cells will also flow with the blood to those areas and make sure that they handle those organisms that are causing problems. Okay, so there are two divisions of the immune system: the part that is handled by cells, which is called the cellular or cell mediated, and the part that is handled by chemicals mainly. Okay, so these two divisions both work together and to make sure that we don't have problems. Okay, so if an organism or a bacteria evades or dodges all these checkpoints, then the third line of defense is what is called antibodies. Okay, now antibodies are what we refer to as customized bullets. Okay, customized bullets against infections. Now, what happens is when we are exposed to an organism, the white blood cells take note of that organism or the bacteria at the first meeting. Now, and the white blood cells begin to specialize to produce these chemicals called antibodies that are fashioned against that organism that attacked it in the first instance. Okay, now, if that organism manages or to infect the same person again, things like common cold and herpes, or things like measles, okay, that is why they say sometimes that somebody can only have measles once. The second meeting with measles will not be as bad as the first meeting, even if it ever occurs, because of these antibodies. Because at the first meeting, the white blood cells have produced antibodies that are targeted against measles. So even if you walk through a place where there are people or children that have measles, you will not even contact it. You already have customized bullets against measles infection. Now, in treatment of COVID-19 and some other bacterial infections like Ebola, people have talked about using blood samples from already infected people that have recovered. What they are targeting for in those blood samples are these antibodies, these chemicals, because after the infection, we have produced customized bullets against COVID-19 or Ebola, as the case may be, so that anybody that has COVID or Ebola, all you need to do, you can also give the person blood from somebody that has recovered, our aim being to use these antibodies, these chemicals that are already produced. Remember, they are customized bullets, and they just manage to latch onto and kill they only kill the substance for which they were produced. So I said they are customized. They don't go killing all bacteria and all different types of organisms. Okay, so antibody production, as we mentioned earlier, is definitely the white cells that bring it about. Antibodies are produced by lymphocytes, the B lymphocytes, as well as immunological memory of that organism that attacked us in the first instance. And that memory stays for years, okay, in some situations, okay, that memory stays for years, so that the next time that organism infects us again, at least that same strain will be able to take care of it, okay? So the immune system, we have now managed to package or have a broad idea of the immune system. Okay, so we will now go to discuss the factors that affect the immune system. Okay, first and foremost, we handle age, the immune system and age. In this era, we also realize that we are asked our elderly ones to stay away and to try to stay indoors and to maintain infection prevention and control strategies, because they are predisposed. But why are they predisposed? What does age specifically have to do with immunity? Okay, as we age, our immune system becomes, and our capabilities become reduced. How? The ability or the capacity to produce some of these chemicals we mentioned, as well as those lymphocytes we mentioned, becomes reduced as one ages. If you notice, with increased life expectancy, both in our country and in our different locations, people are living longer. So the percentage of the aged ones above 65 years or 70 years continues to increase. Okay, we already know that respiratory tract infections like cough, catarrh, COVID-19, pneumonia causes a lot of problems for older people. Okay, so as we age, our immune system begins to depreciate. Okay, nobody is completely sure of what happens, but we all know that the T lymphocytes, okay, remember the T lymphocytes we mentioned are some of those cells that help to kill both cancer cells. They also kill bacterial cells. They are the lymphocytes, or the population that don't need to go to any police station. They kill cancer cells immediately. Now, we also see why cancers are more, those cells begin to become reduced. Also, there's a reduction in the immune system as they respond to infections. We know that even though we still immunize older ones against things like influenza, the flu, and other diseases, the efficacy of such immunization is slightly reduced, okay, though they are still effective. Okay, immunization, I missed that point. Immunization is a way of artificially making those bacteria or those viruses available for the immune system so that they will have the first encounter with it. What happens in immunization is that we collect a bacteria or a virus and we disarm it, okay? We disarm it to the point that it will not be able to cause problems. Then we give it to individuals. Now, the idea is the process that I told you about, to initiate that first contact in a non-dangerous manner, okay? So if we collect COVID-19 and we disarm it, okay, if we're able to disarm it or to neutralize it, we can introduce it into somebody or into different people in different populations. The idea is for them to be able to produce those antibodies, targeted, customized bullets against COVID-19. Okay, so that is the idea of immunization, both for polio, both for tuberculosis, the immunization for flu, pneumonia. They are all based on the same thing. You collect the organism, you disarm it. By disarming it, you can put it in some chemicals, or you just take a part of the organism, okay? You may not use the whole organism. Just take a part of the organism, introduce it into a patient or into someone. The idea is for the patient or the person to develop antibodies on his own in a non-dangerous way, so that the next time the person meets the same organism or the same virus or the same bacteria, it will now be easier for the person's immune system to handle such patients or such viruses. Okay, so we move to the diet and the immune system. This is another aspect of the immune system that has enjoyed a lot of controversy and a lot of talk. Okay, so we must first of all state that a healthy immune system requires a good and regular nourishment. So you need to be eating well for your immune system to be good. We don't need to be a rocket scientist to know that good diet enhances immunization. If you know that children that have kwashiorkor and different malnutrition have a lot of infections, okay, so we already know that diet is very, very important for the immune system. Now, there are some key molecules or some key aspects of diet that are important. All everything is important, but with regards to the immune system, micronutrients, okay, like zinc, selenium, iron, copper, folic acid, vitamin A, vitamin B6, vitamin C, and vitamin E are all very, very important. So we'll handle it later as we move down the slide. We'll finally settle on diet, okay? Stress is difficult to define because what may be stressful to me may not be stressful to you. What you may find stressful this month or this year, you may not find it to be stressful in the next few months. So people are not really sure whether what they regard to as stress may be appeared to be whether stress really affects the immune system or not, because it's very, very difficult to categorize and to measure stress. Okay, going to my village may be stress for me. It may be fun for my elder brother. So different forms of it's very, very difficult to measure stress. So there's a very little about that. Now, with regards to cold, you know, there's always this way of saying when you want to build your immune system, you don't drink cold water, you don't drink cold things. Now, we also know that during the winter, there's a lot of flu and catarrh, cough, and the rest of them. Cold on its own, to some degree, does not really affect the immune system, but extremes of temperature can affect the immune system. But different scientists have worked on this and reviewed a lot of medical studies, and they concluded that there's no need to worry about moderate cold exposure, as it has no detrimental effect on human immune system. Rather, during cold weather, because people move less and stay indoors, they always tend to have more problems because they can't exercise, number one, because exercise helps to move the white blood cells around the body, and number two, because they are now staying indoors in a closed space, trying to close the windows and doors, they can share germs and infections easily. Now, exercise. Exercise again is another one that has enjoyed a lot of promotion or a lot of talk. It has generated a lot of argument and talk, especially in this COVID era. First and foremost, let me mention, I missed to mention that in cold weather, the immune system is not directly affected. However, some organisms seem to thrive more in cold and damp weather. Okay, so it's not the immune system that is weakened to that extent, but it is the organisms that tend to survive better. Like influenza, COVID-19, many bacteria or viruses that cause cough and catarrh thrive better in cold and damp weather. Okay, so we should remember that. Okay, so we go back to exercise. Regular exercise is one of the pillars of healthy living. Now, it's very, very important. It helps us to lower our blood pressure, increase our vascular, cardiovascular system, make our heart work better, help us to lose weight. Obesity has been associated with poor immunity or low immunity. So if you shed weight, you're going to have a sharper immune system. Okay, so exercises help us to also blood circulation. It helps the white blood cells and the cells that fight those infections to move around more often and therefore to do their jobs more efficiently. Now, we are getting to the meat of the presentation, the foods that can help boost the immune system. Now, first and foremost, there are two categories. We have the big boys, okay? We call them micronutrients, okay? And we also have the macronutrients. You know, we call macroeconomy and microeconomy for the economy, for the people into economics, okay? Now, we also have micronutrients, that's the big nutrients, and the macronutrients that are smaller and are needed in lesser quantity, okay? So the micronutrients include iron, zinc, copper, selenium, and vitamins, okay? These are important. Micronutrients like iron, their function is they aid in T cell development, those T lymphocytes, okay? They also generate some reactive oxygen species, okay? These reactive oxygen species are very important for killing of bacteria and other microorganisms, okay? So this is what iron does for us, okay? Now, iron deficiency is associated with anemia, you know, weakness, and also the phagocytes. Those phagocytes that eat up the organisms, they are reduced, okay? They also have impaired T cells that they have, even the T cells that are there do not respond very well, and the antibody levels are reduced. You're going to have these problems to tackle with. So it will be easier for somebody that is anemic to fall sick with COVID or any other infection for that matter. Okay, now foods that can give us iron include rare meats. Okay, rare meat means you don't boil and boil and boil. You boil it so that some of the red blood cells inside the meat will still be alive because it contains iron. Okay, and beef. Okay, these are iron-rich food, and the recommended dose is there. Okay, zinc. Zinc is also another chemical, another micronutrient that has enjoyed a lot of support, a lot of viewership in this COVID era. Why? Because zinc stimulates T cells. T cells, those lymphocytes again that kill. Zinc also stimulates the complement system, phagocytes, the cells that kill bacteria. Also, reduction in risk of pneumonia, reduction in common cold symptoms, infection. It also helps in diarrhea. That's why in treatment of COVID-19, as well as one gets older, it's very necessary that we take a lot of zinc. It's also an antioxidant. Okay, so if you lack zinc, you may have hair loss, especially in women, loss of taste and smell, and diarrhea. Remember that this second one looks like the symptoms of COVID-19. Nobody knows or is sure whether COVID-19 depletes zinc. Okay, it also leads to poor wound healing. Okay, so the person will also have immune issues with the skin and the digestive system. Okay, the phagocytes that kill the infective organisms may not be able to do their job as sharply as they used to. Okay, as well as reduced lymphocytes, both T and B lymphocytes. Okay, supplementation with zinc. Okay, the recommended dose is 3 to 11 milligrams per day. Now, of elemental zinc. Why I put these measurements is so that if you want to buy any drug that contains supplements, you should be able to check the dose to be sure that what you're getting is what you will be needed to provide supplements for you in the course of a day. Okay, so the foods that can give those are there by our right: avocado and a lot of seafood. Okay, there's also zinc tablet that's available in the market. So another micronutrient is copper. It also helps with the lymphocytes and phagocytic function. Deficiency causes inability of our white blood cells to fight, low cell count, reduced lymphocytes, and also we don't have a lot of phagocytes. Those phagocytes that kill the bacteria once they get into our body, they are reduced in size. Okay. Now you see a lobster inside the encircled. These are some of the things that can give us copper. And the recommended dose again is per day, again is shown on your screen. Okay. Another micronutrient is selenium. Again, this has become popular with COVID. It is an antioxidant and therefore is very good. It promotes production of reactive oxygen species, which is the ways that our body system kills bacteria and the effective oxygen. Reactive oxygen species, ROS. Okay. It stimulates general immune response, both our T and B cells, as well as it helps us to produce chemicals that help to fight infections. They are called cytokines. Okay. So deficiency leads to muscle aches. Okay. More side effects of viral infections. Okay. So even if you were going to have a very mild viral infection, if you're lacking selenium, it's going to be worse. You're going to be down for more days. Okay. Loss of antioxidants that help to kill off bacteria or infected or other microorganisms. Okay. You also have decreased white blood cells and natural killer cells. Effectively, you have a decreased immune system. So foods that can give us selenium include mainly seafood, fish, crab, and crayfish. Okay. Now, vitamin A. Vitamin A is very important because it supports structure and function of the cells in our lungs, eyes, in our intestines. Okay. It promotes response to bacterial infection. So it helps us to improve our immune system. Okay. And growth and function of the B cells, the lymphocytes, and the T cells. So deficiency of vitamin A leads to dry eyes, night blindness, diarrhea, infections, and fat malabsorption. We begin to gain fat in different parts of our body. Okay, so the immune issues with vitamin A when it is lacking include loss of structure and function of cells on the body surface, that's the skins and the rest of them, impaired resistance to infections, the person is not able to resist infections, there's reduced innate immunity and lowering of our lymphocyte responses. Okay, so the ability to produce antibodies, the ability to fight cancers, the ability to fight infections are all reduced. Okay, now from our location, carrots also gives vitamin A. Okay, and the recommended dose per day is also there. Okay, the B vitamins, vitamin B1, B2, B3, B5, B6, B7, folic acid is B9 and B12. Okay, now all the B vitamins actually help to fight infection, both antibody response, as we are looking at, most of them help aid with antibody response, okay, as well as T cell production and lymphocyte maturation. Okay, so our body cells need folic acid and B12 to be able to regenerate themselves for both our blood cells and our immune cells. Okay, so we need these B vitamins, okay, which are also available as a combined tablet in B complex or BCO, but we can also find it in different food supplements to different rates. Okay, supplements range depend on each of the vitamins. So depending on the vitamin that you have, you can have different B vitamins being richer in those foods than in others. But generally, the B vitamins are in cheese, egg, leafy vegetables, liver, milk, nuts, red meat, salmon. I don't know whether we have salmon fish in Nigeria, and whole cereal. Okay. Now, vitamin C, the good old vitamin C, is also there. Vitamin T is of course, we know is an antioxidant. It's very good. It may also kill viruses. Okay, that is also why in COVID people are expected to take vitamin C, both for protection and for treatment. It also helps to improve immunity. Okay, so if you lack vitamin C, you're going to have easy poor wound healing of the skin, and the skin and the mucous membranes are going to be very, very disjointed in handling infections. Okay, so it's an antioxidant and helps to kill free radicals. Foods that are rich in vitamin C, we all know, are fruits, okay, and also red pepper and some other food components. The recommended dose is there, 75 to 90 milligrams per day. Okay. Another important micronutrient is vitamin D. Okay, so it's necessary for phagocytic, those phagocytes that again kill the bacteria once they invade our body, need some vitamin D. It also limits response to specific T cell functions. It limits inflammatory response. Okay, so it doesn't allow us to respond so much and to show so much fever and other things, and promotes wound healing. Now, vitamin D deficiency leads to rickets of the bones. We also, again, remember that vitamin D together with calcium helps in bone development. And also, the deficiency leads to diabetes, type 1 diabetes, okay? That's the type you have in childhood, not the adult diabetes, okay? That's not the type 2, okay? It also causes atopic disease, that is allergies, okay? If you lack vitamin D, okay? So vitamin D also helps with, decreases proliferation of B cells. In its absence, in its deficiency, the B lymphocytes, remember, it's the B lymphocytes that produce antibodies, are reduced in vitamin D deficiency. Okay, they also reduce T cells, the T cells that kill cancer cells and all these other invading organisms are also reduced or made less efficient. Now, vitamin D supplementation, remember, vitamin D comes from early morning sunlight, okay, and also foods like fish, liver, fortified foods like milk and cheese, okay. They also have the tablets, okay, vitamin D tablets, okay. Vitamin D is an antioxidant. It protects against cell damage from free radicals, and it also helps us with our immunity or in our immune system, okay. So, sorry, that's vitamin E. So vitamin E, again, deficiency of vitamin E causes neurological problems with our nerves, especially in children. It is also important because it can lead to atopy, that's allergies. Okay, vitamin E can lead to allergies. Okay, in its deficiency, you have loss of capacity to fight infections, mainly the phagocytes that encircle and kill cells, and the lymphocytes that help us to produce antibodies and cancer killing or killing of infected cells. Okay, so you have difficulty in controlling viral infections if you are lacking vitamin E. Okay, vitamin E supplementation is shown there with some of the foods that can give enough vitamin E, almonds and pine nuts. So you can see them there, as well as sunflower seeds. So this helps us to see some of the food sources of what we are talking about. Okay, another important chemical, okay, or important drug or supplement is omega-3 fatty acids. Okay, they are help to reduce or decrease promotion of inflammatory cytokines. Okay, they also help us to respond, our white blood cells to respond better, and people that have clotting problems. Okay, omega-3 fatty acid is gotten from fish oil. Okay, it's very important, and it helps with a lot of diseases, including diabetes, seizures, and the rest of them. Another one is garlic. Okay, this is used for both food and medicines. Okay, garlic, it has been used for several years. Its exact function is not known, though we know it has antibacterial effect. It also helps to control viruses and fungus. Okay, human studies have shown short-term laboratory effects. Other commonly promoted foods include green tea, ginger, purple corn flour, black cumin, licorice, and St. John's wort. These are some of the things you're going to see on some pharmacy shops or as food supplements and things of that. The research for these other promoted foods is very, very limited, or they are very few. Or some other things that you can take are probiotics, like lactobacilli. Remember, we mentioned that there are some bacteria that live in our intestine naturally. Okay, when these bacteria are wiped out either by taking drugs unnecessarily or antibiotics unnecessarily, you can also take probiotics. Okay, this will help us with, especially in people that have diarrhea. Okay, so there are some drugs that are available that we can take for that. Thanks for being a great audience. These are some of my references. Thank you, sir.
Wow, that is great. I can see that Dr. Jude had done justice to the issue of how to boost our immune system. In fact, I will tell you that this is the first time we are seeing. I've never met you before, so it will look as if I arranged with you to present what you are presenting now. But I'll tell you that my heart is gladdened, which means about 95% of the weight of your training today is centered on how the body itself can help to protect itself. And particularly from the angle of nutrition, the angle of good food. But sincerely speaking, from my knowledge in nutrition, nutritional therapy, I have discovered that what people of those days, what they ate, is not exactly what we're eating today, Jude. Am I correct, doctor? People of those days, they were closer to nature. They ate what was real more natural than people of today, where we eat fast foods, preservatives, synthetic foods, and so many other things today. And so there tend to be this gap, what we refer to as nutritional gap, between what the body needs today and what the food of today provides. But before I go into that, I want to sincerely appreciate your presentation. Everything you have presented today, anyone that has listened carefully will know that our immune system is the God-given protection. That is what we need to boost and enhance. And that is why I sincerely want to say, the first thing I want to find out from you is this. I have read from somewhere toxins, that they affect, they compromise our immune system in a way. That is, if the body is toxic, if toxin has invaded the system, it tends to also bring down our immune system. Is that correct? Because I saw recently from CNN, from CNN, I saw recently that in US, the death rate of people who are dying from COVID-19, they are higher among the blacks in US. And the research adduced the fact that these guys who are black, where they live in more of toxic areas, and toxicity is higher among the blacks. And so that brought down their immune system. So does toxins have to do with compromising our immune system?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Toxins can be of two types.
Yeah.
You can have toxins that you get from outside. If you live in an industrial area where the exhaust fumes, okay, from the chimneys and from the factories are polluting your air and dropping into your water that you use and into your soil, both the food you eat is going to be absorbed. There was a study that was done in Niger Delta where they found some quantity of crude or organic hydrocarbons in the corn that was planted in the area. Now, it hasn't been they haven't done it widely in different parts of the Niger Delta. But and of course, taking these toxins, if you remember, we mentioned free radicals. Okay, so imbibing either by inhalation or by drinking or by taking it into the intestinal tract, toxins are found to be carcinogenic. Okay, Those hydrocarbons can cause things like bladder cancer, they can cause breast cancer, and nobody knows the long-term effect of these things. Now, the endogenous toxins is what we call the free radicals. Now, free radicals, somebody also asked the question. He said, free radicals, how can they be identified? I saw it in the chat. Now, free radicals are produced naturally by all of us. By the time we walk and run and talk and eat, our body cells are like factories. The waste that the body cells produce are free radicals. Now, those free radicals, our chemicals, some chemicals in our body, like our kidneys, liver, and some of these cells, try to break down those wastes so that we can remove them, or try to break them down into less harmful things. Now, free radicals have been associated with aging as well as different diseases. So those free radicals, taking things like vitamin C and those things that we mentioned that can handle free radicals like selenium, zinc, and the rest of them, either by what you take it by food, okay? I also didn't mention that most of us, if you're eating a well-balanced diet, or if you're eating a balanced diet, most of these micronutrients I mentioned are contained as part of your food, okay? But as we age and as we have an aging population, eating is not usually what it used to be when they were younger, or because of financial situations, some people may need to take supplements, okay? If not, these raw materials that are produced from exercise and from our digestion and from the food we eat and everything will begin to cause damage. And those are what are called free radicals. The diet of today and the diet of the olden days, well, I think the diet of olden days, they were not eating a lot of processed food. You know, if you want to store things like Indomie to stay for 2 years or geisha to stay for 5 years, you must add some preservatives. That is well. So when we eat all those things, those preservatives must be taken care of. And all those things lead to toxins, as you mentioned. Somebody also said that some foods also that I mentioned about, I mentioned about can also cause problems. Now, as I mentioned, that is why I put the dosage. Everything in a large quantity, including vitamin A. Vitamin A has also been known to cause problems even in immunization in some children. So everything must be in the right quantity. Okay, you can't just start taking because you heard that zinc and selenium can protect against COVID. You start taking 20 tablets of zinc and 20. With regards to these things, apart from vitamin C, some of them also have side effects when you take a lot of them. It is not a question of the more, the merrier. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm so happy about your explanation because somebody mentioned these free radical damages and you have explained that already. And I'm aware also that antioxidants, they are a major solution to the free radical damage because they provide the electrons that are depleted from the system. So antioxidants can be found from natural sources. And so before we go into that, I came across this study, the effect of toxins on immune health. In fact, it's a study from Harvard, and we're looking at if toxins can compromise. You see, no matter how much effort you make to boost your immune system, and the environment is toxic, either internally or externally, it means it will also bring down our immune system. So I'm looking at, to have a better result from what you have discussed today, if we can also practice detox, because I see Nigerians, they are good at servicing their vehicles. If you buy a brand new vehicle, if you don't service it, of course, the engine might just knock. They are good at servicing their generators. But in our system, we are not good at servicing our human body. There's somebody who mentioned, there's a Dr. Don Corbett. He wrote a book, Toxic Relief, and he said that if human flesh was cow meat, we cannot eat it because of the toxic load. So first of all, we are going to boost our immune system like I've explained with all this food we have looked at, but I still want to submit that there is need to let people detoxify themselves. Let us take it as a practice. Like we service our generators, we service our cars for better performance. Let us also begin to address our minds on how to detoxify, how to keep regular practice of servicing our body system, so that all the practice we are going through to boost our immune system, to take all those things that are recommended, can now become effective. So I'm looking at this issue, yes, the study of immunotoxicology. Immunotoxicology. That is a study I came across in Harvard and some expert studies. It shows clearly the effect of toxins on our immune system. And then immunotoxicology is that study of the effect of toxins on the functioning of both local and systemic immune system. And then particularly for all the exposures to toxic substances, including chemicals you have mentioned. The effect of these toxins on the immune system may have consequent effects on our lungs and other parts of the body as well. So in my opinion, we need to also begin to look at how do we clean up the system and eradicate toxins, so that all that you have explained now can become very effective, so that what you have explained now can make our immune system be boosted properly. Because the effect of toxins, I tell you, on our immune system is really very vast, even on our respiratory tracts, our skin and lungs, even allergic contacts, dermatitis, sepsis, bacteria and fungi. So it's a whole lot. And so where am I going to? Number one, looking at what you have presented and the training, which is 100%, in fact, applicable. If listeners today can imbibe what Dr. Jude had taught us today, it will go a long way protecting and boosting our immune system. But as far as we are concerned, don't do one and leave others. Toxins, detoxify. And I want to quickly show here the synergy between detox and boosting the immune system. You see, what we call synergy is not just the summation. It's going to be more than the summation. So if you detoxify and at the same time you boost your immune system, we're going to get far better results than expected. So an effective detox program, one, should take into cognizance not just removing toxins from the body, because like you said, doctor, toxic loads are from internal and also from external. So one, a thorough cleansing from the cellular level. Number two, the system should also be able to provide nourishment. So you are removing toxins and you are reloading the body with nourishment. So you are not just detoxifying, you are not just cleansing, you are purifying the body, and then you are enriching, nourishing the body. So all this together is a package. And at the same time, some organs that have been broken down can also be rebuilt up in the process. And this is what I found out from my own little research. I told you what my area is, yes, properly nourishment. There is this pack that I came across. It's a package for 9 days people can use. One, to detoxify so that the boosting of immune system can be effective. And at the same time, this pack contains other nourishing products. Like we talk about high-level protein, super protein. They are there. And then other nourishment. They say transform your body, transform your health, and transform your life, but remove toxic loads and then nourish the body system. So a thorough cleansing at the cellular level, which everybody needs, just like we service our generators and our cars, like I explained before. And then complete nourishment, real load of nourishment, because what we eat today, there is a huge gap between what the body needs and what we actually eat today. There's this doctor in Lagos here, Dr. Ayushi Moju. I listened to his training some few days ago. He did a research And he found out that what we eat today is a far cry from what the body needs. So there is the need for supplementation. We cannot but supplement because the body needs it to protect itself, like you have told us, to boost itself to protect itself and boost our immunity. So complete nourishment is needed. That will provide all the zinc and vitamins, the selenium, the copper, all the things you have mentioned. Where can we get them from? Our mind begins to be addressed to where do we get all this nourishment from? Because for an effective immune boosting, you mentioned vitamin A, you mentioned vitamin C, you mentioned vitamin E, you mentioned vitamin D, you also mentioned all the B vitamins, folate, folic acid, iron, selenium, zinc. You have mentioned all this. But my fear is, where do we get all this from? Particularly when scientists, particularly nutritional therapists, now have shown that the food we eat today lack most of this nourishment. Therefore, our minds, apart from detox, effective detox, our minds should also be looking at proper supplementation from a guaranteed products. So all I have shown here to help doctor to conclude for this segment, if you must boost your immune system, if you cannot get zinc, copper, and all that from chemists or wherever, which are synthetic, why not let's go the natural way? I suggest here, everyone listening today, you must have been invited by one person or the other. There is what we call the immune blend. The immune blend, if you just Google Forever Immune Blend, it's a whole load of all that doctors have mentioned. Forever Absorbent C, it's not just vitamin C, it's vitamin C in oat blend, which means you take it, though it ought to be soluble, but the body absorbs it and is released according to how the body needs it. Forever Ultralight is a high concentrate of amino acids and all the essential amino acids the body needs that will give the body that boosts our immune system, and then every mineral you have mentioned, like zinc, copper, selenium, iron, and all that, you can find them in what we call the Forever Nature Mean. Nature Mean, all natural minerals, all from natural sources. And then, of course, what we call Forever Daily. Today, Forever Daily contains 55 blends of vitamins and minerals, all in a dose, which means if we are in the practice of taking Forever Daily, you get everything in terms of vitamins, in terms of minerals that your body needs. And I remember doctor mentioned probiotics as well. Probiotics is very, very important, talking about the gut and other things. So Forever Active Pro B is also available. And of course, calcium. We talk about vitamin D, calcium, and all that for our bone health. And then the B12. And of course, lastly, aloe vera gel. Aloe vera gel is an antioxidant, the most powerful single source antioxidant known today. And so if you are in the habit of taking aloe vera gel regularly every day, more than 200 food components are all in that pack from natural sources. So in a way, other products are also available, like the Agi Plus that contains L-arginine, of course, and then Field of Greens, all that you needed from green vegetables from natural sources. Then, of course, the garlic thyme, and then the bee propolis. So all that we have seen here, doctor have mentioned all these minerals and vitamins that we needed, but my fear again is the food of today. How far? I was in UK some few years ago, and there was a seminar that a doctor gave. He said the kitchen no longer provide all that the body needs. What we eat today from the kitchen, what we prepare today is a far cry. What the body needs, the body cannot get from the food of today. So we have no choice than to supplement. And so all those who are participants today, go back to whoever invited you, and then find out how you can get some of these well-packaged supplements, what the body needs, like doctor has mentioned, that we can take. The free radicals, we need to use antioxidants. We have no choice than to use antioxidants. Of course, doctor also mentioned fish oil, omega-3, fatty acids. These are very, very important. And where can we find them? A combination of omega-3, omega-9 from olive oil, omega-3 from fish oil gives a synergy of what the body needs to make up for our omega-3 requirement. And then what we call the Active C omega-3 supplements is important. Doctor, I want to thank you so much for the exposition. All this you have exposed to us today and everything. I'm sure many people have gotten value from your training. And I'm sure many people want to get in touch with you. And so you leave your contact behind with us, because as they keep calling to say, how do we get information from doctor and all that, we should be able to reach you. And we'll also need you to leave behind the slides so that we can keep referring to it. It's very valuable slide, I must admit, that you have provided today. And so the last segment now for the next 5-10 minutes is to go back to the public, the audience now, participants. Let us take some questions now from the audience. Doctor, are you there? Hello, doctor.
Yes, sir. I'm
here, fine. Sir. Very good. So the next 5 minutes, thereabout, we want to take some few questions now, because I've seen some people asking questions. The first one you have answered already, talking about free radicals. Of course, you have answered that already. What are the free radicals and all that? Doctor has answered that. Free radicals are everywhere. From everything you do now, free radicals are built up. So, doctor, let's see some of the questions now. You say you have promoted some food here as immune boosters. You said meat-based foods. These food sources are also known to be destructive to the body and promote growth of disease. Can you reconcile your presentation with recent advice given to people to eat vegan? All right, that is from OnePlus. His name is OnePlus to everyone. So, doctor, can you just chip in some things, their information?
Okay, well, as I mentioned earlier, like there are some nutrients that are specific to some food items. Okay, so as a matter of fact, we say folic acid is gotten from plants and green leafy vegetables, while B12 can only be obtained from things that crawl and things that can move and things like that. So depending on the nutrients, pure vegans, again, there are some type of foods that you have to think a little bit more to be able to get all the nutrients from. It's possible as a vegan to get these nutrients from your natural food, but you have to think a little bit more, especially for things like that are usually obtained, like iron. Okay, there are some foods that contain iron too, but the quantity again varies. So it depends. But if you want to be a pure vegan, it's also nice, but you can also think of taking supplements.
Very good. Thank you very much, doctor. I appreciate that. I hope, my friend, you listen to that, because in addition to that, you should understand that our soils today are seriously depleted. And most times the soils are also very acidic. And when the soil is acidic, uptake of those vital minerals and vitamins the plant ought to take are impeded. And so, but science, we're advancing. Science is not static. We're moving ahead. And so the supplements that have been mentioned today, they also from vegetables and fruits, but packaged naturally. So everything you need, you can get. I'll give you an example here. The study made by Dr. Aishimoju showed that if you must get vitamin C, citrus, oranges in particular, you get high source of vitamin C. But he did a research and he found out that an average orange will provide the body with about 60 milligram vitamin C. But researches done in Nigeria show that oranges that we see all around today, they look promising outwardly. They look ripe and enticing, but research shows that inwardly, they don't even contain up to 1 milligram vitamin C. So, if WHO say take 10 oranges in a day, and you took an orange that is about 1 milligram vitamin C, you have gotten just 10 milligram. So why not just supplement and take that absorbent C that will give the body every milligram of vitamin C the body needs? All right, doctor, thank you so much. Thank you from us. Let's go to the next question. It says some of the foods you recommended are difficult to get in Nigeria. I guess, yeah, some of those vegetables and fruits you mentioned. Will you please recommend foods that we can easily get in Nigeria? These guys are okay, doctor.
Thank you. you know I appreciate I appreciate the question, and I completely agree. Some of the foods that I mentioned can also be imported. I've started seeing some foreign food in our market, like asparagus and the rest of them. When we were kids, I'm not sure they had things like that. Having said that, foods vary depending on where you are and the culture. I may not be easily able to provide what each food contains, because what is in the north may not be the same thing that is available in the south or in the southwest or in the south. So diets differ. So, sorry, I may not be able to help you so much. Women have a way of having that information.
Yes. Thank you very much. In fact, all boils down to the fact that because I was discussing aloe vera. Aloe vera as a plant, well, it's a vegetable, it's a plant. And for those who know aloe vera very well, you'll find out that there are about 300 species of aloe vera known today if you just Google aloe vera. But out of the 300 species, about 295 are poisonous species. So if you ask me, people who plant aloe vera around their homes and they just pluck and start to chew, what's the guarantee that you are showing the right species? It takes a botanist to do a lot of classification to know which is poisonous and which one is safe to eat. So in my opinion, why not let's leave the job of some of these plants and vegetables today, because we're advancing, we can never go back in life. Food supplements have come to provide, because some of these, when you say field of greens, we're talking about vegetables from the area where the minerals and vitamins are rich, and so they have been obtained and well packaged. You can now get everything that the body needs from it. So I don't want to talk about water leaf or talk about green or talk about this. We can eat whatever we want to eat, but have it in mind that today there is depletion. At least my knowledge in soil science at master MSc level, there is depletion and there is high acidic level in the soil. And so most of the vegetables, people in those days harvested and they ate, provided the nourishment, but today there is depletion. And so the way forward is simply to supplement. Supplement and live happily, supplement and live well. You can still eat whatever you are eating. Supplementation means make up for the lack, make up for the deficiency. I want to thank you so much, Doctor. You are a very busy person, and to get you to talk today has not been easy. We give kudos to Dr. Clement Digo, who was able to track you down, because he told me, look, we're getting Doctor, but he's in UK now. We're looking for Doctor, he's back. So I've been looking for a way to get you down. So I want to thank you so much. And we may have cause to bring you back some other time, because this issue of immunity.
There's an outstanding question. There's a question I still.
Okay,
let me try to. Somebody is asking. Someone wants to know the functional definition of free radicals.
Okay.
Well, I don't want to bore you with the technicalities, but as I mentioned, free radicals are produced as our bodies digest and metabolize the food we eat, they are produced naturally, okay? And these free radicals have been linked with aging, the theory of aging, cancers, chronic diseases like diabetes, blood disorders like clotting and all those things. The free radicals themselves, there are about 3 of them. You have hydrogen peroxide. Yeah, our body produces hydrogen peroxide, H2O2. Okay, so if you're into chemistry, we also have the superoxide, that's O3. Okay, oxygen O3. They are highly unstable chemicals, as well as OH group on their own. So you see, they are imbalanced. They are chemicals they are compounds that are imbalanced. They are not well balanced, and therefore they are looking for hydrogen anywhere. And anywhere they find hydrogen, mainly in our cell membranes or inside the cell, by linking up to that hydrogen, they damage the cell. So that is how. But there's no way we can run away from it. We keep generating free radicals as we move about our daily activities. But the foods that we eat and some of our blood components and the buffer systems in our body help us to soak them up. I hope I have been able to say something.
Thank you very much, Doctor. That is very, very great. In fact, I wonder why the person is bothered about free radicals. Free radicals are everywhere, sincerely speaking. And like the explanation Doctor has given, if we break it down for you to understand more, you see, in chemistry, electrons are paired to be stable. But during metabolism and during this breakdown of what we eat and whatever we do, one electron is knocked off. And so what is left is a radical. And it's very unstable, looking for a partner. If it takes it from the cell of your eye, cataract growth, anywhere it removes electron, that is the free radical damage. And nobody is free from the free radicals. Because even, you see, chemicals today everywhere, emission in the air, even when you shelter your home, free radicals are built up. If you take drugs, free radicals are built up. Even the UV from sun, free radicals. So many things. So nobody is free from free radicals. And if you ask me, the solution is antioxidants. Yes. We'll conclude this on this note. Don't forget I mentioned a lot of antioxidants. Doctor also mentioned a lot of antioxidants. And the one that is glaring to you is that beautiful golden color you see in the jerry can, aloe vera gel from aloe vera. Because aloe vera has one of the major properties as an antioxidant. And so everything that is aloe based, that is well packaged, they have that property of antioxidant to neutralize the free radicals. I want to thank you so much, Doctor. God bless you for coming today. You have impacted and you have added value. Everyone that have listened today must have gone home with something. And all we do every weekend, every Saturday like this, is giving information. Why? Because information is power. Many people should live healthily and live well. And that is the essence of this discourse. Thank you very much, Doctor. And thank you very much, Dr. Clement Idigo. And thank you to all participants, those who have stayed on. You must have gained something. Thank you. God bless you. Live well and live long. And God bless. I remain John Authority.